Today, we're digging into a really fundamental shift happening in business leadership. We're talking about how the chief financial officer's role is transforming from, a simple number cruncher into something much more, a strategic risk architect. In a world where risk is pretty much constant, this isn't just a trend, it's a flat-out requirement for survival. Okay, let's just jump right in and look at the difference. The old school CFO, they were the scorekeeper. Their whole job was looking in the rearview mirror, reporting on what had already happened. But the finance leader of today, they're a proactive strategist, always looking ahead, anticipating what could happen. And that shift from reactive to predictive is everything we're exploring. So to really get this, let's start with that traditional role. For decades, the CFO was basically the company's official scorekeeper. Their entire universe was built on historical data. It was all about reporting what was, not what could be. So the questions they were asking were always looking backward. Now, don't get me wrong, these questions are still absolutely critical. You have to know your numbers. But in today's world, that's just the starting line. It's not the whole race anymore. So what changed? Well, pretty much everything. We live and work in this hyper-connected world where a brand new risk, anything from a global pandemic to a supply chain just collapsing, can pop up overnight. And that makes the old reactive model, well, dangerously obsolete. And we're not just talking about a single threat here. What we're really facing is this complex web of interconnected risks. A cyber attack in one country can totally disrupt a supply chain halfway across the world, and that hits a company's finances instantly. It's that interconnectedness that really changes the game. And the crucial takeaway here is this: risk isn't siloed in some department anymore. It's now baked into every single strategic decision the company makes, whether that's adopting new AI or deciding to enter a new market. Every single choice has a risk component. So how do you even begin to navigate all this? Well, the answer lies in a whole new playbook. It's all about a fundamental mindset shift, from just trying to avoid risk at all costs to learning how to manage it intelligently. I absolutely love this quote because it gets right to the heart of the whole thing. Thinking like a risk officer doesn't mean you get scared and stop innovating. No way. It means you enable smarter, more calculated growth. It's all about taking the right risks. So here's what this actually looks like. Let's take international expansion. The potential reward, massive revenue growth, right? But the inherent risks, things like currency swings, new regulations, they're just as real. The modern CFO has to be able to weigh both sides of that equation all the time. In this way of thinking, it builds into a really clear, structured process. It's not about gut feelings, it's a real framework for making decisions. By asking these 5 simple but incredibly powerful questions, a finance leader can turn what might be a dangerous gamble into a calculated strategic move. Okay, let's raise the stakes a little, because this isn't just some theoretical academic exercise. There are very real high-impact threats out there that make this shift from scorekeeper to strategist incredibly urgent. First up, cybersecurity. Just think about it for a second. The finance department is a goldmine of sensitive data. If there's a breach, it stops being an IT problem and instantly becomes a massive financial and reputational crisis. That's exactly why the modern CFO has to be asking these kinds of security-focused questions. Next is the ever-growing spiderweb of regulations, from incredibly complex tax laws to new ESG disclosures that track environmental and social impact. The whole landscape is just constantly changing. A proactive CFO builds financial models that can adapt before a new rule hits, not after. And then there's economic volatility. Things like inflation, interest rates, supply shocks, these are now constant features of the business landscape. So to prepare, these risk-oriented leaders use tools like sensitivity analysis and scenario modeling, basically building resilience instead of just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best. And finally, and this might be the most critical asset of them all, trust. Stakeholder trust. You really have to think of trust as a financial asset. It can take years to build and literally seconds to destroy. A risk-aware CFO gets that strong controls aren't just about ticking compliance boxes. They are about protecting that incredibly valuable asset. So, what all this leads to is a powerful, totally new definition of what a finance leader is. They're no longer just a guardian of the books. They are now an architect of the company's entire future. The transformation is really clear, right? The old scorekeeper, they simply measured the past. But this new strategic guardian, they actively protect the present and enable the future. It's a huge shift from a passive role to one that's deeply active and strategic. And the results are completely tangible. This is not just a title change. It's a source of real, measurable competitive advantage. So what do you get? Fewer compliance breaches, stronger confidence from your investors, a much faster response when a crisis hits. In short, companies with risk-aware finance leaders are just more stable, more resilient, and way more trusted. And this brings us right to the core idea. We have to just throw out that old notion that risk management is some kind of roadblock to progress. The exact opposite is true. By understanding and managing risk, these leaders create a solid foundation for smart, sustainable innovation. So we'll just leave you with this one question to think about. In today's world, it's really no longer about if a finance leader should think like a risk officer. The real question is, can any organization truly afford a leader who doesn't?